Matt has got in touch with us here on the show. Matt, you heard us mention that earlier. Why did you get in touch?
I just wanted to get in touch because I'm part of a whole family that did catch it because of visiting a loved one in a COVID ward. And I just want to find out, are we the only family, or how many families is there that have been allowed up to a ward, and how many families have caught the COVID because of visiting a loved one in hospital? Are we the only family? Is there several families? How many families is there? They're saying there's one family, and I'm aware that it's my family that has caught it from visiting their loved one in hospital that died in hospital.
Sorry, Matt, just to go back, do you think is this your family that has been talked about?
That's why I rang up.
That's why you're okay.
Family? Is it my family, or like I'd like to hear other listeners? Is there other families that have been affected, or is it just my family that they're talking about?
And Matt, when you heard Ray Walley's comments there at the briefing, the Department of Health briefing last night, how did you feel when you heard that, Matt?
It shocked me at first. I was a bit stunned. I'm just keep thinking, is it us? Is it us that they're talking about? There's loads of other little things like, why did we catch it? Like, do you want to know why we caught it? What there were so many faults in the hospital. I'm not going to name the hospital, but there was faults on when we went visiting our loved one. The first day we got shown how to put on the PPE. All the days after that was just, there's the PPE stuff over there, do it yourself. There's a few times where my mask hasn't been on right and I've had to be pulled out of the COVID room and refitted. Things like that.
Okay, so there was obviously some checking then if you had to step out to...
Exactly, and they told my partner on the last day that you're supposed to pinch the top of the mask because we were all getting steamed up goggles, which we shouldn't have been.
You've obviously lost somebody recently, Matt. I don't want to put you under. I don't want to put you in a position, by the way, that you feel you have to give any, detail that you maybe don't want to. Like, I'm sorry for the loss that you've.
Yeah, we did lose our loved ones over COVID. I just want to find out what other listeners is there another family in the same situation as us? Have they been affected just like us? Are they just talking about us? Are we the one family that has been affected by this?
I suppose I'm trying to imagine, Matt, what it must have been like for you and your family, where you have a loved one who is in hospital being treated for COVID. They're obviously extremely unwell. I'm sure you want, and your family members want, to go in and see them. I assume, or I imagine, you get medical approval. You get permission, I suppose, from the health officials to be able to go into the ward to see your loved one or to say goodbye to a loved one.
No, we didn't get permission. We just got the call from the hospital. I think it should come up.
Okay, so you were allowed in, but effectively.
Yeah, we were let in.
Yeah.
Twice a day maybe, for 4 or 5 days. Our loved one passed away.
And obviously you went in, Matt. Is that a decision that you make as a family, to go in? Was it a case that, you wanted to go in, you would have known obviously the risks associated with COVID, and is it?
Yeah, well, I didn't give it a second thought.
Yeah.
No one gave it a second thought because, obviously we wanted to see our loved one and to know that we were there for our loved one. So, yeah, we didn't give it a second thought. As scary as it is, if anyone else has been in the same position as us, you wouldn't give it a second thought.
I have to say, Matt, a lot of our listeners that have got in touch with us here in the News Talk text line since we mentioned this, they all say the very same as you. And I think if I were in your position and I had a loved one who was extremely unwell, and we were been told we were allowed to go in to see them or to go in to say goodbye to them, I think vast majority of the people, you know, would have done exactly what you did and would have went in to say goodbye and to see their loved one and to let them know that they were there in the full knowledge of, you know, I suppose all the risks. As you mentioned, all you can do is, you know, you took all of the precautions that you could with the PPE and...
Yeah, like the problem with the PPE was, like, we were shown once how to do it, and then every other time is do it yourself. Like, is it fair? Like, is that why we caught the COVID? Because we were told to do the PPE ourselves after the first time.
So do you think you should have been shown that every day, Matt? Every time you went in?
Every time we went up to the hospital to visit, there should have been someone there to fit us with the PPE, to make sure that the mask was on right, to make sure the goggles were on right. There was one time I got a pair of goggles, and if anyone that has been up visiting, there's 4 corners of the goggles with 4 little white studs in them. On one of my last visits up there, one of the studs was missing, which meant there was a leak in the goggles. So I asked the nurse, when the nurse came into the room, what's the story with my goggles? And she says, oh, quick, out, come on out. So I went out, got refitted, new pair of goggles, new mask, and then I'd say about 5 to 8 minutes later, another nurse comes in. Oh, your goggles are steaming up. What's wrong? So my mask had a little lip up at my nose, up at the bridge of my nose, so the mask wasn't fitted right. Obviously, I done it, but as again, someone should have supervised it. Should have supervised and made sure. It shouldn't have taken 2 nurses to take me out of that COVID room to make sure my mask was all right and my goggles were all right. It should have been done from as soon as I entered the ward.
It must have been a pretty anxious time, Matt, when you leave the hospital that day, as if there isn't enough, I suppose, going on as well. But were you anxious then about that?
Very anxious.
Yeah. Very
anxious. So I was asking the nurse, like, how dangerous was that? Am I going to be all right? You know, like, and they just said, yes, you'll be all right. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason why the family caught COVID, but like, that's one thing I'm very highly annoyed about.
Okay, I suppose we don't know for certain that this that your situation, your example or your scenario that you're talking about, Matt, is the case or the example that was given yesterday. We don't know that for certain. I suppose that's why you've got in contact. That's what you're wondering.